All right, welcome back to the Parkour UK podcast. This is a special one. I've been really looking forward to this one. We have the man, the myth, the legend, Jay Clark from RUN London, one of the coldest athletes this country has ever produced in the building. And of course, my fantastic co-host, Dean Barnard. I'm Max Ward, and let's get into it. So we always start the same way on this podcast, which makes my job a bit easier, is how'd you get started in our fantastic sport?
As a little kid, I always had that that adrenaline when you jump off things. From little, so I was always climbing up and jumping off things. I was always able to just do backflips for some reason.
Mate, jealous. It took me like 3 years to learn to do a backflip.
I always had the urge to just rotate. Do you know what I mean? So
just
one day
do it
I
off a wall or something.
So jealous of that. I hate kids that are just so sick at like just backflip with no like training. It took me 3 years. No, I respect that though.
I met these twins from around my area, and they knew about free running. Yeah. So I started like training with them, just going out, doing flips and jumping off. But then through them, I met Alfie Green, which everyone knows.
Another RUN London guy, yeah.
And then he introduced me to Lishma, who's like an old school parkour head. Okay. Everyone must know about Lish.
I don't know him, no.
You don't know about Lishma?
No.
Well.
London head?
Yeah. Old school.
What area? So you grew up in London, yeah?
Yeah. East
what
London.
area? Where?
Bow,
East, yeah. Cool.
But then, he introduced me to Lishma, who then basically told us about South Bank and the whole free running scene, and from there we just started going down South Bank, just meeting everyone, you know what I mean, just everyone all over the world, and that's how we formed groups, and that's how we formed RUN London over the years. Different people from all different areas.
So you didn't have any coaching or anything, you just went for it?
I mean, there was one little lesson when we were like maybe 13, but it weren't like no coaching. We just all met up, just gas each other up, just go out and just do it. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the best way. You just go out and just get gassed. You know what I mean?
There weren't that many people teaching back then as well, so that is often the way people did it. And like, but it is impressive without that any formal structured coaching, not only to get into the sport, but because these guys, especially at the time, were doing some of the best stuff in the world.
Because it wasn't as big as it is now. So it was kind of like you found out through word of mouth. Whereas now, it's all over the internet. You know what I mean? It's viral videos. People are seeing parkour and then they want to try and learn it. You know what I mean? So that's how they get into it, through like, I need to do a lesson or something like that.
Yeah, it was a lot smaller. Yeah, and I feel like, I don't know, the people who got into it back then, it still is like a lifestyle sport, but we're so committed. You know what I mean? Yeah. The small number of people was like, this is what I'm doing, you know? And I don't know, did it feel back then like there's more opportunity? Not in the sense that there was any money, because there was very little and there still is. But in terms of like, there's so much this untapped potential of the sport. I don't know. Back then, obviously, a lot of you guys were doing like the world first, this and that. Did it feel like you're discovering the sport, you're breaking new ground, or was it just like having fun?
Well, a bit of both, I think. I think that's how it all works, though, isn't it? Like the next generation of any sport or anything is always going to one up or take it to the next level. Yep. But at the same time, it was just it felt like this is what we're meant to do. We're just going out, just having fun, and just like trying to get to the next level, unlock the next move, do you know what I mean? Or get a bigger jump, or get the first jump, get it before that, do you know what I mean? So
that's so competition.
There's like healthy competition in it as well.
Yeah, definitely. So them early days, talk to me about those. How did RUN London form? So obviously, like, to put it kind of into perspective, we had Ollie and Lucian, who are like on the pod, who are like some of the youngest guys in the sport right now, like the younger generation of London parkour. Then there's the Team Fat generation. You guys were even before them, RUN London, and then there were some OGs before that. But what were the early days like when you were training, and how did that team come together? Because there's like 15 of you in.
Yeah, there's quite a few of us.
RUN London. Yeah.
Well, like I said, it's just obviously over the years, you're going out every week, you're meeting new people, making friends.
So you were in high school then, more or less, like.
Well, when I started.
Yeah.
I was like 12, I think, 12 or 13 when I started like properly training, like knowing about it and going out training.
And how often would you train then? Because I remember back those times, like I would, especially on school holidays, I trained like every single day. Like how often were you going and meeting up with people? And
it would have been every day.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, it weren't like training. We was going out to have fun. This is how we have fun.
So you didn't see it as training back then. It was just going out and having fun.
Yeah. But then obviously as you get older, you're like, we're going out training now, because it's getting more serious. There's more people coming into it.
It's a different mindset. And also when you get that involved in it at that young age, it's like, that was like your main social circle, right? Yeah, like those are your main. And I see that even. So you mentioned Alfie Green. You know, I mean, he doesn't do the sport anymore, but still, a lot of his closest friends are from parkour. I'm still like,
yeah, our main circle, like we're like it's like we're brothers now. Do you know what I mean? We're not just friends, but we all met through parkour.
And you're still all together as mates.
Yeah.
Still training.
Ish. No, not really.
I think Run LDN is kind of split. Some people training, some people not. But I feel like the friendships you made through parkour and like kind of the transferable skills and all that are still there. So talk to me about. So you made a few big, quite impactful video projects with Run LDN from back in the day, and so obviously Alfie Green, you know, obviously very close friend of yours who doesn't train anymore, but. What year was it that you released Hard Work? A very iconic video between the two of you. Because for me, that's as like an Australian, you know, back then, that's when you blasted on the scene. I was like, okay, these man are serious.
I can't remember what year it was. It was quite a long time ago now, though.
It's like 2016, something like that.
Yeah, I think something around that. Because obviously we had POM 2014.
I'm gonna Google it.
Because we had POM 20. No, it's POM 2013 actually. So yeah, it must have been a couple of years after that.
Fair enough.
How has the community changed since you very first started? What was it like then?
It's definitely a lot more serious now. People are taking it a lot more seriously, and like turning it into a profession. You know, you got all the YouTube, the vlogs.
Yeah. Do you think there's more pressure now then to make money out of it?
I don't know. I don't know about pressure. There's definitely. I say for me personally, there's definitely a lot more pressure to sort of go out training to the same level as I used to, because the level now is. It's nuts. It's nuts, and I've had too long out. You know what I mean? Too long out now.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, 2016, I was right. Yes, gassed about that. But no, that was a really iconic video. But talk to me about that, because I've noticed a lot in you. So obviously you reached like such a high level, and then had some injuries, taken some time out from the sport. So, what's your? We might be getting ahead of ourselves, but that's all right. We'll circle back. What's your relationship with the sport now in terms of that when you go out training? Because it used to be like you'd go out and just try to do the hardest thing you can, and if you're not training as regularly, like how do you deal with that, like you said, like the want to be back at that level you were at, but then realizing that okay, you need to train regularly to get there?
Yeah, it's definitely it's just lack of motivation as well.
Yeah, because you know you can't do, because you haven't been training every day, right? You can't do the same stuff you did back then, so you're less motivated to.
And sometimes
get out.
It feels like, in a way, like eyes are on you to sort of do something compared to, like, do you know what I mean, to the same level as you used to.
Yeah, because you're at such a high level. So that expectation is still there.
Yeah. Exactly. So then it's like I've got myself. So I'm like, do you know what I mean? I can't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a weird one, especially in parkour, because it's different to other sports in that respect. Because how a conventional sort of super high level athlete will go is they'll ramp up. You know, they'll constantly train. They'll be at their prime. And then once they get a bit past their prime, they'll just retire.
Yeah.
And then that's that. And then maybe if they train at a casual level, no one's expecting much of them. But because we don't have that competitive professional pathway, it's like, it's kind of like, oh, like he fell off or this and that. There's no like, oh, I'm putting a full stop on it. Actually, Marx did that.
He just stopped.
Yeah, he like announced like I'm stopping parkour and I'm gonna just focus on coaching gymnastics. Yeah. But it's not a common thing, you know what I mean? Because you'll get it in, you'll be like, all right, this is my last Olympics, this is my last whatever. Yeah. I'm retiring now, and then from that point, your expectation is removed from you. But yeah, it's different. It's different. I remember Jason Paul, who's been a pro parkour athlete since he was 14, talking about this, how he goes out and he loves to move, but there's always eyes on him. There's always an expectation.
That must be hard, because as you get older, you just can't do the same stuff, and you don't have the time to train like you do when you're younger.
And you can't always train like your show reel level stuff as well. No. Sometimes you're just there having a good time.
But I mean, I didn't put like a full stop on it, or like just decide to stop. It was like a few things up, and like it was.
Well, you still train sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. But it was more like injuries and having to start work and just not having enough time.
Yeah.
Adulting.
So exactly. Yeah. So over time, obviously, you know, your perception and judgment and all that, it just kind of goes out the window a little bit. You've almost got to start from scratch.
If you weren't doing parkour, do you think you would have done sport?
Well, before I did parkour, I did a bit of football as a kid. Like, I played for a few teams. I played a bit of football. So maybe, standing in it. Like, so yeah, probably football. I can't think of anything else.
Football, and then
most likely football.
To what age do you feel like you would have done football? Because at a certain point, you either get serious about it or like, yeah.
No, I don't know, man. I'm not too sure. I don't think I was ever I weren't that good.
Yeah.
So
you might have dropped off after.
Yeah, maybe.
Were you not a particularly sporty kid then aside from parkour?
But, do you know what? I used to do a bit of everything.
Yeah.
I used to just play about, you know what I mean, mainly football until I started doing free running. And then free running, as soon as that was it, it was just free running.
And what was it about the free running as opposed to football or something that, was it the community, the movements itself? Like,
well, I was a lot better at it for one.
Okay.
And it was...
Well, that's a massive one though, to be fair.
Yeah.
And it just, like I said, it just felt natural. It just felt like, oh, this is what I'm meant to be doing kind of thing. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like a chore or, like you say, it didn't feel like training. It was just... This is... Yeah. It's how I felt free.
On the point of the early days, like, because we often, you know, on this podcast talk about what makes a good community, what was great back then, what's great now, what we lack. So how would you compare the London community back then to now, or like, you know, the last year or so?
Well, I think when we was all there was so many more people going out every Saturday. I mean, every single, well, almost every day, but Saturday was the main day. Everyone's going out.
How many people would you get out?
Mate, couldn't count really. I mean, it was all different, but
like 50, 100?
Yeah. So and there was a lot more jams.
Yeah.
So you get hundreds of people at jams. Do you know what I mean? Now, there's not really many jams in London, is there?
Yeah, there's the XXL jam every Sunday, and some on a good day, 30, 40, maybe 50, you know what I mean, on a good day. Yeah. But yeah, it's different.
You just get like
so
a
why
free
has that dropped off? Why do you think that's dropped off?
I don't know, to be fair. I think, like I said, I think it's people are taking it more seriously now and they're doing their own things.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? They're worrying about their own channels and their own progression, whereas before everyone was just gathering to just have a good time and have fun.
Yeah.
It's a number of things. Like, one thing was there was a big surge in popularity of the sport at that time, because it was like kind of this new thing. You had the films Jump London, Jump Britain, so you had a big generation involved, and the people that can train that regularly are people in that certain age bracket, right? You know, teenagers, like early 20s, things like that. And then I suppose it's another good point is the other thing is people that are still training really hard will often train with a much smaller group now to just focus and like with their 2-3, you know, proper people that they want to film and really go hard with and focus with. And so I think the community may be smaller now, but also more segregated in that regard. It's hard because especially like if you are filming for a project or something and you want to be totally focused and have your group, it's fair enough. But I'm very against like elitism. Like, I like to get everyone together and really see that.
It seems that the focus has shifted a bit from fun to that serious.
Yeah.
Especially as the level's higher, because now you need to really, like, if you want to make your mark in the sport, you need to really focus and put in a lot of work because the standard just got pushed to such a high level.
I think as well, like them older, you know, the old CP days, old cock parkour days. They were just very random. Like, we'd go out and just film stuff, and then at the end of it, we'd have a video.
What years were those? Like, so what, like 2013, 2014?
Yeah, it would have been,
So hardware was 2016, so it would have been a couple of years before that, or?
Yeah, I would have thought so.
Okay, yeah. So you just film a video of the day.
You just go out and you just film clips, and then you'd have a video. Run London videos were a bit more organised.
Yeah.
But then obviously, like, let's say Team Fat, for example, like you said, it's projects. They know what they're doing. They know where they're going. They know what they're filming.
Yeah.
That's why it's kind of a bit separate.
It's just more serious in that regard. It's interesting. Also, on that, so Run London, you had the team. You had a few big videos come out. Did you ever get any work opportunities off the back of that? Any jobs, performances, anything in that regard?
What, from Run London specifically?
Well, from Run London or just generally through parkour, because around then there was like a little bit of a surge in commercial interest in parkour. So I was just wondering if there was ever a period where you did like some work.
We did quite a bit of work, to be fair. There was at one point, you could say living off it. I don't know what to say, but we was doing enough.
Surviving off it.
Yeah. We didn't really have to work, and it was like a monthly income kind of thing.
Oh, nice.
We was like performing. Me and Alfie were performing at just like the cricket tournaments.
Okay.
And there was enough jobs in that each month that were just like paying us monthly.
What? So like before the cricket started, or?
No, it was literally for the actual tournament. So we would perform it whilst they were playing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but it was side entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sweet.
Oh, wow.
It's all different. There's loads of different things, isn't there? There's advertisements, performances, music videos.
Did you do music videos?
Yeah, I've done a few.
How was that?
Any standout ones?
Nothing that's like big now.
But
we did one for Tinchy Strider.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's well interesting because I feel like a lot of the commercial interest dropped off after that.
Jeep, sorry, we did one for Jeep as well.
Jeep?
Remembered.
Yeah.
We did one
Did
for
you?
Jeep. That was like from 11 at night till 6 in the morning at IMAX in the winter. It was hard work. Driving, like jumping over cars and rolling on concrete in the winter. Like,
end product looks good, but
that's work.
It was fun.
That's work. So how long was that period where you were making a living, you know, like getting by, let's say, through the sport?
That period of the T20 cricket, that was with a team called Team Kinetics.
Okay.
That was a few months. It was a few months, but I think it happened like maybe over a couple of years. So like obviously a set few months.
Yeah.
But then other than that, it was just kind of random bits and bobs here and there. So it wasn't quite reliable where you could not worry.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So obviously that's when you have to get jobs and adult.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's cool that you had that period though, because it doesn't happen that often. It's quite hard to come by. Like I'll get an email now and then for like a parkour job and I'll give them my rate, and usually they'll go with like Store or someone more established in the end, because there's like a small number of jobs and then there's a few people that kind of somewhat monopolize them. So it's quite hard to do unless you want to go into stunts. But then when you really go into stunts, that's it. Like you with your parkour career on the streets, you're focused on stunts. It's a hard balance. What would you say is your favorite video project from the Run London era?
Ooh. See, I've always say the first one, because that's the one that kind of set it all off. That was like it was the most iconic.
What was that called? Just Run London?
Yeah, Run London
01? 01, I remember that. That was crazy.
I love the Sweden one.
Yeah.
It was just gully. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, we had Joe Scandrett in it as well.
Yeah.
So, that was a sick one. Dom was in it.
Yeah.
That was a wicked one, man.
I think that era was really where...
It was kind of like going international, do you know what I mean? Obviously, Sweden, like, we're going place now, we're moving about.
Yeah, you know, not just on your own home turf. Yeah, you're there for a few days and you're still putting it down. I remember... I felt like that's when London really felt like it was the top in the world for the sport.
It definitely changed, like, the scene, I think.
Yeah, 100%. The impact it had. But that first video, that is a thing. It's a big thing in parkour, is when you want to start your team and do your YouTube videos, that first video that blasts you onto the scene has got to be a banger. Oh, the thing I think is cool about Run London is I reckon it's one of the better... Parkour teams struggle to have good names. I think it's one of the better names, but also the logo is unbelievable. I don't know if you've seen the Run London logo. It's essentially the underground logo, but instead of underground in the middle, it says Run LDN, but the underground circle is like a fireball, so it has a bit of flames coming off it.
It was sick,
it's a cold look. I remember seeing that.
And it's aged well.
Yeah. I remember seeing that because it's obviously adapted from like the most iconic visual of London. Like, I wish I had one of those T-shirts, man. That was cool. But yeah, it was a powerful era, like, definitely. So the first one for me, the most impactful one was probably Hard Work. You and Alfie Green, and then
but that was just me and Alfie. Run London.
No, you're right. That was a normal brand project, exactly. Which were parkour brand at the time in London. All right, so following that, there was about 2018 to 2021 with this period where, like, I feel like you were, in my opinion, like the best athlete in the sport, you know what I mean? Not trying to gas you up too much, but there were the way I like to see parkour, and I was very impressed. And so talk to me about that period, and also Dom, you know, he come over from Australia, and you and him, when he was in the UK, were this iconic parkour duo, just pushing limits essentially, you know. So what was that period like?
It was mad, because obviously when it comes to like me and Dom, we just had this thing, we just bounce off each other. Do you know what I mean? From the minute he came down, it was just, when we was out, it was just getting it done. Do you know what I mean? Like, he done something, I do something. There was one. It's
that subtle competition, isn't it? Like that.
Do you know? I didn't see it as a competition. I don't think he did either. It was just we knew what we were both capable of,
each other.
and we were like, right, we you know what I mean? We can do this. Like, let's do this.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was never a thing like, oh, I've got to do this, because I think we were good in our own ways.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like, he had his thing, like, you know, impact and just sending massive gaps and that, and then
yeah. But it was, I think where you crossed over is the mentality. Like, you both seemed to go, and it wasn't like, oh, can I do this? It's like, you're a level of like professionalism and knowledge of your ability where it's like, we're going to do this today. Like, we're going to turn up, we're just going to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you were so, knew your ability so well that you could almost make that decision before you went and looked at whatever you were going to do.
Yeah. It was like, there's one time when he used to come and stay with me for like months.
Yeah.
And he used to come from Australia.
Yeah.
There was one day we were just at my house, and we literally planned the whole next day. We was like, I'm going to go there, we're going to do this, we're going to get this done.
Yeah.
And then we could do whatever we want. And I think we literally got everything done by about 2. He made a video about it called Pushing the Limit. Sampa was there as well.
Yeah.
Oh, man, what was it? I think...
yeah, what were the bigger hits from that day? Because I remember them times, and Dom's vlogs, you know, sometimes I found them a bit dry, but when he was in the UK, different viewing experience. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was unbelievable.
He done the Kong Ups middle block at IMAX.
Yeah.
Kong Up step Webster Pre.
Wow, okay. IMAX Webster Pre. Yeah. Anything new done at IMAX is a big icon in the sport because it's such an iconic sport. Yeah.
And then I did the little Kong Pre down at IMAX 1. I did side over.
You did side pre over at IMAX 1. Were you the first to do that?
I believe so.
Okay, so there are at IMAX there are like 3 kind of rite of passage jumps which you do. You know, as you're getting into like an intermediate level in parkour. There's the running jump across like kind of the stairs is the main one. There's the Kong Pre down from like the building side to into the stairs, and then there's the standing Pre there as well. And so what Jay is referring to is the side flip over the Kong Pre wall into that second wall.
Just like over the alleyway.
Over the alleyway. Like, yeah, okay.
And then that was the day I did back forward baby.
Okay, yeah. Baby 45 is another iconic spot just across the road.
And Sampa as well, I've got to say. Sampa did this at Haywood. So you got the curved walls, and it's over the drop to the corner of the yellow staircase.
Okay,
and it's not a nice drop.
Yeah.
He soared over that like an eagle, bro.
So these spots are all kind of, if you for any listeners who don't know what we're talking about, they're probably like the most iconic spots in the sport, because this is IMAX and then there's stuff in and around the IMAX walls in London. So these yellow Haywood Gallery walls are stuff where Kai Willis, you know, back in 2012 was doing some of the biggest stuff in the sport. So anytime you can pull something off there that's new and impressive, it's like it was very groundbreaking. It still is groundbreaking at the time.
I think Sampa was the first to do, actually.
Yeah,
I think so.
Sampa, another Run London OG. He was kind of like the youngest one.
He was the younger one, yeah.
He was kind of the kid.
Little Sampa. Can't even say little. He's a big man, you know.
Yeah.
He's not little, bro.
Well, it's true. No, little in terms of age.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he's a big man now. He's doing kickboxing and stuff.
Yeah,
wouldn't want to mess with him. But
serious.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's cool to see how everyone's developing off the back of that. And so,
have you ever turned up at a spot and really wanted to do something and just thought, nah, it's just not going to happen?
Yeah. Just
great question.
There was one, and it was recently actually. It was just before I'd done my pelvis.
I know what this is. Yeah.
It kills me, you know.
Yeah. I know this one.
Dragging it out.
Because I was always that one. Like, if I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't walk away because it bugged me.
Yeah.
So it's the side over IMAX over the death drop, the one that Dom confronted.
Yeah.
I wanted to just side pre straight over.
Straight over. No one's done it to this day.
No.
It'd be a madness.
But, I will say it was a bit on and off raining that day. So when I was like kind of hyped to do it,
I was there.
And then but then it all, because when you run up to that wall, you're blind until you're there.
Yeah.
It's a big. If you mess that up, it could be game over.
Right. Yeah.
And then not long after that, I'd done the side pre.
You done the hip.
Done my hip. So I did kind of see that as a little bit of a sign. I thought, imagine if I'd done that there.
Yeah. So I remember that day, and I remember thinking that you made the right call because you hadn't trained enough recently. I feel like, in my opinion, what would have happened is you would have been scared of it. You would have blasted it. You would have overshot it badly and landed in the walkway. Well. Yeah. You weren't landing in the gap. You would have just overpowered it so much, because to have the control to pull back the power takes a lot of regular training because that's essentially scarier. Like when you're doing something big and scary, it's easier to just over jump, you know?
It's like your body just makes you put.
Yes.
Exactly. Like if you saw the jump I did in Sheffield, where I just land and slide out because I'm so scared, I'm not landing in the middle. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. So yeah, I feel like unfortunately, like that you walked away, but I think you did make the right call there. And then talk to me about this hip situation because that is a perfect example of what I'm saying. You injured yourself trying to pull back the power for the stick on that one, you know? What was that whole experience like?
When I first landed.
So where did you do it first? Just explain a bit if someone hasn't seen it.
Like it's right by the sea. It's just like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just a little sort of
so it's meeting place in Brighton.
It's like an oval block with a few blocks on it, but then there's a gap. That just goes onto like the wall. Yeah,
it's probably the most well-known parkour spot in Brighton by Meeting Place Cafe on the water. And there's a lot of iconic stuff that's been done there. Yeah. And that was the first day anyone had done the flip, I believe.
I think it was.
It's a very iconic running jump, kind of like the IMAX running jump, kind of a rite of passage.
Yeah.
And then, you flipped it.
Yeah, so, Dom did it first.
Okay.
Again, this was after not so much training. And I think I might have had 1 or 2 beers. But, I did it probably the first time, and the way I landed on the wall, like it could have been a stick, but obviously my body went over a little bit. So
chest forward. So body position good, but your chest forward. And
obviously, I mean, if anyone knows what I'm like when I'm training, if I do something, I have to stick it.
It's got to be nice.
Oh, it's got to be perfect.
I've got to stick it.
Yeah. And you've done the hard part at that point as well. At least mentally, it's like a cool. Got over it. Let's just pull it back slightly for the stick.
Yeah. And then, boy, next thing I know, man, I was chest on the wall.
Yeah. So your toes essentially, you came into the corner, your toes just slipped out. Yeah. So then your hip took the impact because you were pulling back the power just that slight bit too much.
And I've seen a few people do it. I've seen Abdi do it. I've seen Dom do it a few times.
Yeah.
And then when it happened, I was like, this can't have happened to me.
Yeah. So was that a hospital trip?
Yeah, I broke my. Well, I didn't shatter. It was like chipped and cracked, but like I was.
Yeah.
I couldn't move. I couldn't leave the bed for about a month.
Wow.
It's what we call a pancake, I believe.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
I never had that one.
Dom had the best one. You know when he did the one to a rail and he just completely flopped over it. Your pancake or like a taco. Yeah. Essentially, when you try a very ambitious flip pre, often to a rail, and your toes slip out, and it's just you take it to the body.
Yeah, it's not nice.
It's not nice, no. And so, you cracked your hip on that.
Yeah. At first, I didn't think it was actually bone, though. I thought it was just muscle.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was on the wall, and then I think it was when I tried to sit up and put the leg down. As soon as that leg went down, that's when I knew. I was like, no, you can't. It's definitely bone here. But the ambulance said it was going to take 2 hours. So Gallagher just lifted me up, put me in his car, and took me to the hospital.
Yeah. The NHS is a bit frightening sometimes, unfortunately.
And I was stuck in Brighton as well. I weren't even like near my home. I was stuck in Brighton.
Yeah. No way. They transferred you back from Brighton to London after a couple of days, didn't they?
No, I was in there for a week. This is even better. When I was in hospital, they diagnosed me with COVID. So I was like, it's a double whammy. Best time to get it.
That's a bad day, I suppose.
Best time to get it.
The funny thing is, the exact same thing happened to me. So I'd snapped my ankle. I was in hospital in Germany. They'd also diagnosed me with COVID. We were doing Instagram live calls together, and we were both in hospital, both in isolation with COVID. You know what I mean? Those were the days.
Kill some time.
Yeah.
I was in there for a week, and then I was just like, I need to get out of here. So I convinced them to let me leave. Okay. And then I had a friend who come pick me up and took me back to London.
Oh, okay. I thought
you were home after that. You went home.
Yeah, but I was still bedbound. I couldn't move.
Couldn't walk. Yeah.
So for a month.
I think near enough a month. It could have been a bit more, but
how is that though? Going from doing all your training to just being bedbound for a month, that must have been hard, like mentally.
It was actually because let's say at that point it was 12 to 13 years training.
Wow.
That was like the worst thing that had ever happened. Yeah. Before that, it was just fingers and toes, so it was calm. But then
shoulders, knees, fingers, toes.
Yeah, but then that putting me out of commission, it was a bit it was hard to adjust.
And then because then how long did that take before you were kind of able to get back to doing some stuff?
I can't really remember. I couldn't tell you, but it was quite a while. But I didn't get straight back into training straight away.
That's the thing.
Were you nervous about getting back into it after that?
It definitely does put some doubts in your mind. When you go back to look at jumps and stuff, you're thinking, oh, mate.
Yeah, don't want to do that again.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know the feeling for sure because when you're younger, you kind of battle with what you would usually view as irrational fear because you're capable of it, and then you try to just beat that. But then now, when you have an injury, and especially if you have to work and stuff like that, it's like there's rational fear as well. Yeah, irrational fear, there's more some rational fear, because there's real consequence to if you hurt yourself for your life as well. And then, and then you're trying to beat that. So it's a tricky one because I feel like after that point, that kind of coincided with adult life, sort of, just hitting you pretty hard. So
I think if you get injured when you're out of work, you're not earning.
Yeah.
So all it gets a bit stressful.
So was that pretty much the beginning of the end then? Do you think?
I'm still not saying it's the end. I'm still not.
That's the thing. Like the end. You still come out and train.
Being a bit lazy and slow at that moment.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because Jay will come out and train like once a month and still be at an unbelievable level, but it's not near where he wants to be or where what I mean, where it was before.
Yeah.
I think that's my own battle in my head.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. No, I understand that as well. Yeah. Like when I'm injured, I just lift weights until I feel like I can really go for it again. But yeah, and it's about stringing together consistent sessions is the hard part. But no, it's cool that you're still training. But what was that like? Then the change of lifestyle, adult life, sort of trying to pull you in certain directions, and how especially with the injury, what was that like, striking that balance like?
Oh, I don't know, man. It's hard because obviously, me personally, like I lost motivation, lost my passion for it. So that's why it's hard. It's hard to go out on the weekend. Do you know what I mean? I'm laying about.
Yeah.
It's easy to just not go out.
It's such an uphill battle as well to get back to where you were and stuff. Yeah. But that's it. When you do come out, I feel like you enjoy yourself. You just need to be almost pushed.
I do, yeah. But that's another thing as well. When I don't want to go out, and it's like I'm forcing it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And before it was like I need to do this.
Yeah. Do you still enjoy it when you go?
I do. But it's different, obviously, because like I said, it's like I'm almost forcing it now. So it don't feel as natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was that ambition, that drive.
And plus, I want to go out. I want to try and get a post. And I'm a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to posts. I can't just post any little. I want it to be a decent post.
So you put a lot of pressure on yourself, basically.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Always, yeah. No, I remember we had a good session at Yard a while ago, and I remember you were kind of like just chatting to people, milling about, and then we pulled you in and was like, come on, got you really training, and then you were hitting some good stuff. You got a good post. Obviously, it's not like top that your level before, but it's still like absolutely unbelievable parkour that most people won't ever get to, kind of thing. So
that was the hardest one as well, because it's like I really, really want to do this, but it's so easy not to. And that's when I'm just like, nah, come on, you got to push. And then you'll feel so much better afterwards.
Yeah, and you do.
I think it's like that as you get older with any exercise, though. Like, I mean, just going out for a run, sometimes that's a chore, isn't it? Like, and all you've got to do is put on a pair of trainers and off you go. But that mental battle to get out of the door sometimes.
Yeah, that's the hardest
part. That is the beautiful thing about our sport, because it's funny, because you sounded like you were just describing almost any physical exercise, particularly as an adult. But because parkour is so inherently fun, you know what I mean? We didn't ever really view it as that. I remember having a very distinct transition. Like I used to train every day, I just go out and have fun. Got really injured in my knees, took about a year off the sport, had to get into lifting and doing all this gym stuff, which I still do, but I don't enjoy that much. I do it as a means to an end. But it's quite hard to change your mindset to as an athlete to having to do all this work and pushing yourself rather than going out and just having fun with your friends every day. Yeah. That's the other thing as well. Do you feel like because a lot of your boys from back in the day aren't training as much anymore, so if you come out, it'll be like the younger generation or maybe one or two of the Run LDN guys. Do you feel like that's affected your
it is motivation? A little bit. Yeah, it does a little bit. And as well, like you say, we train with the fat boys, just bro, can't train with these, man.
That's
you know
because they're like you.
It makes me feel even worse.
Yeah, they were like you back in the day. They're just on absolute skullduggery. You know what I mean? These man, they're just. I'm going to Asia with them. I'm worried.
I'm trying to do a little jump or something. I'm thinking, that's all right. And then you got Orlando doing some 50. Sorry. Yeah. Doing some 15-foot standing jump or something.
Yeah. No, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
I love to see it, obviously.
So you still like to watch it though, even if you can't quite
do it.
It's hard. I find that hard as well, training with those, man. Sometimes I'll be able to do a similar jump, but I'll take 30 minutes and I'll do it in 20 seconds, you know?
Yeah, but your strides are mad, though.
So I got my lane, but it's still like I have a different process and they're so autonomous. The thing that helps me, right, with that mentality with these guys, you just remember they're the best in the world, because they are.
Yeah, they are.
They are the best in the world, especially like, you know, Orlando physically, and like some of the other Team Fat guys, the mental game they have, they really are top tier.
Yeah.
You know, so you remember that, and it's like, all right, let's not get put down too much by struggling, you know, to keep up with these guys.
I'd love to see what the next generation brings.
Exactly.
To the table.
Yeah. No, and it's incredible.
It's always going to be mad.
It's incredible. Yeah. It's just always good to remember, like, not to get intimidated, because, you know, parkour is about progressing for yourself and training a better version of you yesterday. But inevitably, you compare yourself to people. You know what I mean? And that's always a hard thing to deal with. But I think the harder thing to deal with, as we mentioned, is comparing yourself to yourself. You know what I mean? And like, especially after injuries and things like that, where you're where you're trying to get.
Do you think it's got a ceiling though? Like at some point, it's
the thing.
Has it?
That's
like progression in the sport?
Yeah. Well, not in the sport, but like what you can do. Yeah. Surely at some point there's a limit.
Yes, yes and no. So it's a great question, especially with the more core parkour movements, like running jumps and things like that. There's a much more defined ceiling based on your kind of athleticism, and you can lift and do athletics and do things to push it. And then as the sport grows, you get more physically gifted people, like someone like Orlando. But there is more of a ceiling on that. Like the stuff that Jay back in the day and even Kai Willis before him were doing, the big jumps, they're still stand up today. So there's more of a ceiling in that, but in the free running side of things, they're still yet to hit it. Because there's a lot of like, technically and sort of also with mental strength, there's a lot of still leveling up that happens. If you look at the stuff that Manu, I don't know his last name, the French guy who did a side flip on the Eiffel Tower recently. Like, and he's doing all kinds of stuff at terrifying heights, you know. He's so consistent and so good, but like, I think there's still a massive amount of progression that can happen. So
you think it will probably get more higher rather than bigger jumps and stuff?
Riskier, more technical. Yeah. Bigger jumps definitely still happening, but there's diminishing returns simply because of, you know, like physical ability. You know what I mean? So like, and that's what me as an athlete, I try to push. So I lift my weights and I try to just get the extra few inches on my jump. But in terms of, there are certain areas in the sport where I feel like there's so much that can still be progressed. And it is every day. If you look at what these style competitors and free runners are doing and stuff.
It's like Ellis Torhill. Every single post is just something mad, something you've never seen before. And
he's always learning new tricks, always pushing it. Like someone like Mimis as well from Greece. These are the top style athletes in the sport. Like,
and they're throwing these tricks in competition as well.
So Ellis did the first ever triple flyaway, so swing triple backflip off a bar on hard floor in a competition.
Wow.
He did it in a competition for the first time, you know. So, so it's a good question. I think the ceiling for certain movements is lower than others. But if you look at someone like Orlando, like the plyos he did at IMAX, you know, like the jump from starting on the spike rail back across, like I think that's the physically hardest thing ever done in the sport.
You think?
In terms of pure physical like difficulty, like strength, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so as you get more really like physically gifted athletes as well, because of the resources we have now and the standard we have now, they get to that level quicker. But we got to see how it goes. There's still insane progression happening every year, you know, across the board. And it is scary in the sense that with that, it becomes a bit more like an extreme sport in some respects. And you are accepting a higher level of risk with some of these movements. Inevitably the top level of the sport is becoming like a bit more dangerous because they're really playing with fine margins now, you know. And I don't think there's been like a massive increase in injuries or anything, but we might get some, like you look at descents, you know what I mean? Like I don't think Joe Scander will ever fall under descent. That's when you start on like a car park and go floor to floor to floor, drop. Because his real consistent technique, he's the best at it. And there's a few people that are very good at it, but I do think someone's going to get very badly hurt doing that one day, just inevitably, you know what I mean? So that's a scary side of the sport, but there's still progress happening all across the board. You know what I mean? It's an interesting one. I wanted to, before we get off a bit of nostalgia, I wanted to try and ask you, like, what are your top three kind of like biggest madnesses that you've done? Because I have some in my head that I can think of. Man. It's a very hard question, and I haven't asked anyone this on the podcast, but I don't know. I was so inspired by you as an athlete back in the day, and I wanna I want to hear what, like, it might not be what other people think is what was the hardest process for you, you know, mentally, whatever.
One of my favourites, I'd have to say front round of 7 at IMAX. I don't know why.
So
I was 17.
But where did you do the front round of 7 IMAX?
IMAX 2, over into the road, over the gap.
Okay, so at IMAX 2, you've got these 2 walls with a famous double Kong. So you go across the walkway into the road, opposite like the entrance to King's College, and you front flip the whole thing.
Yeah,
and then you did a round of 7. I
fronted it when I was 15.
You fronted it when you were 15.
I fronted it when I was 15. I was the youngest to do it.
That's so wildly inappropriate that you did that.
How do you get over the fear to do that though? Like how?
So impressive.
This one, I think when you're younger,
don't have it.
It's just
some people are like that. I never experienced that, but some people,
you just know. You just know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's that certainty. It's not like you don't have a fear, but when your ability is there and you train regularly enough.
Adrenaline. It's more like when you get that feeling, I'm like, all right, cool. This is it, and then you're scared,
but you know you can do it.
Yeah.
And so it's not like pushing beyond your ability. It's within your ability. It's just like very scary. But yeah, I do kind of get what you're saying. When I'm in a good mode of training, it's not like, oh, can I do this? It's like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. And then you've got the whole thing in your head where you're like, I've got to be the first person to do this, otherwise someone else is going to come along and do it before me.
Yeah, that competitive element.
That's why I did the IMAX, because I had to be. I was already the third to do it, so I was like, right, I've got to at least be the youngest to do it.
The youngest, yeah.
So I think I did it a day before my 16th birthday, because the second guy to do it was 16.
Oh!
So I was like, right, I've got to do it while I'm still 15.
Now whatever.
Yeah.
That is brilliant. That's brilliant. But you know, I like that because our sport is inherently non-competitive. You know what I mean? But it's also for any sort of high-level athlete, competition, even if it's not direct competition, pushes you, you know? And so stuff like that, wanting to have these little titles and this and that, you know, it might not mean something to everyone, but I like that because it helps you push.
Exactly.
There's certain things I have on my list that, you know, haven't been done. And because of that, you get that extra bit of motivation, you know what I mean? And it's like, sometimes that's actually looked down upon in parkour, but I'm okay with it because that's how sport works. Like, no one looks down upon someone for wanting a world record in an athletic discipline or this or that, you know what I mean, to get their accolades.
Yeah.
Like, we can collect accolades too if that's what you want to do. You don't have to, but I like that because it definitely can push people, you know what I mean? So that's a good one. Let's get 2 more.
Okay. Maybe I think back foot baby, because that was like, you know, no one had ever done a back full pre before.
Did you 7 that, or was it back
full?
Oh, okay,
back
cool.
full,
So this is just across the road from IMAX. Incredibly, I don't even know why it's so iconic, but it's like next to Hayward Gallery.
It's
over these stairs.
Just at the start of the bridge. It's like a higher wall that's over the drop, and then you've got a lower wall. So then there's a staircase.
That bridge that you go off from IMAX is like the staircase you go down to there. Very iconic. Actually, I saw an ad for a big Apple TV show, and like the background, the guy was standing with that as the background. It's like a very iconic piece of London. And so you did back full pre there, and at the time, no one really had done a back full pre's before, because it's like, why would you do that? You know what I mean? Like backflip precision. It's like, okay, you can kind of see where you're gonna land.
Yeah.
Back full pre is like you just hope.
Yeah. No, well, I mean.
No, well, I don't know, mate. I've never done it. You explain it.
It just hit me one day because I was doing back falls. I'm just like, I can literally see everything.
So,
like,
so you lean, you
from
spot
wall to a wall. Why don't? And I'm like we've got to do this. This got to be done. And baby was just the perfect setup.
Dimensions. Yeah. It's cool as well because it's such an iconic spot, because you could do it in you know, another country on the exact same dimensions, but because of London and the aura it has and the iconic, like how iconic that spot is, it almost it adds an element to it, which is
I definitely
cool.
manifested that one as well, because that was one of the things I was planning with Dom that day.
So that same day.
Yeah. So the night before I was like, right, I'm gonna do it, man. We're gonna get this done
it's
tomorrow.
on the list.
Man. Yeah, it's gotta get it done. And then
mate, there's something to be said for that visualizing though as well. Like some of the stuff that I've done that's the best, I've really visualized and thought about for ages. When Dom did the Kong Front Pre at IMAX, very iconic clip, he was visualizing it constantly.
Yeah, and
the day before.
everyone knew.
And everyone knew he wanted to do it. And like I remember we had like an Uber there. I was making a documentary, so I was filming him. He looked very nervous, but he was just going boom, tap, 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 tap. He was just thinking like tap, tuck, release, tap, tuck, release. Like he was visualizing the jump for hours, and he just turned up and did it. you know, that can help for sure. That's a great one, to be honest. And
there's
that,
a lot of prep, isn't there?
There's a lot of prep. But I was talking with to do a bit of athletics. I was talking to my athletics coach about it. A jump I did where I was visualizing it constantly for like months leading up to it, you know. And finally, I knew the day I was going to go there. We were going to film regardless of whether I did it or not. There's pressure, and he said that's the same as like a race. You know, it's the same thing. It's like, you know, like you got a date, you visualize, you're prepping for it, you're going to hit it, and it's the same pressure when you're going to try and compete in a conventional sport. So it's almost our equivalent. Yeah. You know, it's not for everyone, but like if you really want to push your limits, it's like we can actually get a similar experience to conventional sports, despite the fact that, you know, we're just doing it on the street. I find that quite interesting. All right, go and give us one more.
One of my favorite clips. This is an old clip actually. It's so. Wait, actually, no, I've won up this since then actually. But it was concrete over IMAX one down the little concrete.
Yes.
Over there. So it was Kong speed step down to the block.
7.
Wall 7.
Yeah. That was in hard work, wasn't it?
It might. It's an old clip.
It's an old clip. Yeah. Okay.
But
It's cool that all this stuff.
I've done side since then, so I've sided over down to the wall 7. But my foot hit the floor. My foot hit the wall, so I don't really count it.
Okay. Yeah. It's cool. It's also cool that all this stuff has happened like in and around South Bank and IMAX. These such iconic spots. But this is why they're so iconic. Yeah. Because the sport has been pushed by people like Jay, and everyone watch these videos and engage with them, and yeah.
And then I guess people see it and they want to go and try that too.
Exactly.
The same spot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like, you know, if you run like a world record in the Olympics as opposed to like just in any next meet, you can break a world record in any like race, you know, but you got to do it at a certain place for it to have this, you know, and you can do high level stuff anywhere in the world, but for some reason we're blessed here with this iconic spot, and people come from all around the world like, all right, this is my moment, I'm gonna do something new at IMAX, you know, and get my little glow up. It's I
forgot about Glendon actually.
Which
I'll
one?
retract my last one. Go on.
I'm going
to replace that with a double Kong at Glendon.
I don't know that
it's
one.
It's at Woolwich. It's like two red brick walls.
Okay.
It's a big gap, and Greg Kong fronted it. I've concreted it, and me and Greg are both double Konged it.
That was back in the day. Yeah, that was one of the things that London was particularly known for. Is massive double Kong, so 2 hands on the wall, you're flying head first to the next wall, 2 hands on the next wall, which is one of the most kind of inherently like dangerous, I don't know if dangerous is the right word, but like full commitment movements.
Yeah.
Because there's no, like in a lot of parkour movements, like a jump or something, you can, if you have your legs in front of you, you can bounce off. There's a lot of safety built in.
Yeah.
That one, you're flying head first, you just got to know you've got it.
Yeah.
There's not much room to mess up. Like,
one slip, your foot slips or your hand slips.
Yeah.
Like people do occasionally mess them up, you know, and like will get away, but you might not get severely injured, but you're getting hurt. Like it's a very mentally impressive thing to accomplish as well as physically. Yeah. And London was always very well, like the London community, like you said, Greg Ennis, this guy, he's like 6'5", absolute monster of an athlete back in the day, and he was known for them because the mental fortitude was so high. He'd just go for it, you know. So I think that's what it is, especially with like London back in the day and these days with the Team Fat guys and stuff. The physical ability is so high, but actually it's the mental ability that's really like what people look up to, is being able to know exactly like how far or you can do a jump or a movement and do it with consequence, you know, when it matters. That's a really impressive thing that I think people look up to, and that I get kind of intimidated by when I move to London. It starts to rub off on you slowly.
Have you ever bailed halfway through a movement?
Halfway through.
Yeah. So like you freak out, half commit, which is the most dangerous thing you can do in parkour. Exactly.
Yeah.
There was one. I don't know if I. Right. So there was one. It's at Cross Harbour.
Yes.
You know where me and Dom done the side.
Okay. So one of the biggest ever side flip pre's was done. And it was one of the most iconic like duo movements as well by Dom and by Jay at Cross Harbour over this stair set. So that's the spot.
Yeah, that's the spot. Yeah. But it's across the 2 walls.
Okay, yeah, so it's across the stairs.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a video of it actually. As I'm about to do the side, Yeah. But you see my foot kind of slip in between the banister and the wall. And then you see me in midair, I'm like, oh no, right, this has gone wrong. But I can see the wall, and I nearly land on my ribs on the other wall. But I kind of just managed to.
You get on your feet?
No, I land like on here.
On your thigh, yeah.
But it's like I just about managed to get myself over.
Just get yourself over.
It would have been like.
Would have been a rib.
On the corner.
That is one of the most common, what you're talking about. Occasionally you'll get with like a side, particularly with a side flip. There's a guy called Brian Wagner from Melbourne, Australia, who's done 2 of the best ones ever. A side flip blue screen, I like to call it. You know, when your computer blue screens, and you just kind of... So sometimes either because a foot slips like happened to you, or you just freak out and you get people side flip and they do... and they kind of like... But yeah, it's a pretty gnarly one.
That's a horrible feeling as well.
It's a horrible feeling
when you're halfway
in the air,
and your brain just goes no.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it's a good one though. That was a good question. All right, so let's bring it back to today. Like, how do you feel like parkour fits into your current life, and where are you looking to get back into regular training, keep doing it just as a casual social thing? You know, I'm curious because obviously, like, you had that absolute top tier era. Yeah. Do you want to get back to like another peak? Do you want to just be able to enjoy it? Like,
yeah, I think if I did train like regularly, I could get to, you know, I don't know, some sort of, I don't know, maybe not as it was back then, obviously.
Some sort of peak. You're definitely still young and physically able.
Exactly.
You're not past your like athletic prime as a person, of course.
But it's just hard with working all the time. And then come the weekend, it's just a bit like you're a bit knackered, or you know what I mean, because you're an adult. You know, you go out with your mates and yeah. But it's all down to self motivation. You make yourself do it. Do you know what I mean? It is hard. But I do wanna start training again to get back into it. Yeah.
Like, so what the goal would be to try and like train once a week, or?
Well, yeah, it'd have to be fair.
Yeah, because that's what I see.
Work literally all the time.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sometimes I even work Saturdays.
I think once a week is enough.
No time. Yeah,
100%. Because every time you come back, you do good stuff. But I feel like if you train, like, I think once a week is enough consistency to then start really pulling back into like getting that confidence back and getting to a really good level.
But for you, is it still got to be the big moves that motivates you?
Yeah, I think so. But that's just always how I've trained.
Yeah.
That's always like what I've liked to do. Do you know what I mean? I'm not. You've trained me. I'm not good with all the.
Mate, I'm the same.
The mixing it around and doing all the little tricks and connecting and all that. I like to have. Do you know what I mean? I just like a big power move. And just go for it, send it, make it look good.
Absolutely.
That's how I like to train.
Yeah.
But then again, you got to adapt and you got to get with the times.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I feel like
I will try and start learning and involving other movements.
Do you think you could do that until you're much older? Those smaller movements. Do you think?
I think it would definitely help, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Rather than just always sending it and hurting yourself or impact. Yeah. I think you'd definitely get a lot more time out of training if you was to involve all the little bits and just have a bit of fun rather than always sending it.
Yeah, because parkour, you know, it is a lifelong practice as opposed to a lot of sports. Like, that's often how we view it, but your relationship with it can change drastically over time. Yeah. I was talking with, when I was last in Australia, with Brodie Pawson, who I think he hasn't done the absolute biggest, but I think he has, in my opinion, the best CV of big running jumps. You know, he's done so many top tier.
Well.
Yeah, 6 foot, and he's done some of the, like a lot of the biggest running jumps. He's got like 20, 30 top tier to his name. But he told me now, he's still training hard, he's still pushing aspects of the sport, but he's made a conscious decision, like, okay, I'm not pushing the absolute distance jumps anymore.
And there comes a time where you have to calm down.
Exactly. Like, he's still doing high level stuff, but he's like, okay, I'm putting that to the side, and I'm still training regularly parkour. He still makes a living from parkour, but with jobs and this and that. But like, at a certain point, you got to be like, all right, I'm finished with this. I'm moving on to that, which is a cool thing to be able to do. I hope that I can do that one day, because I'm like you, that I get the satisfaction out of just the hardest physical feat, you know, that I can do is what I really enjoy it for. But I feel like you can have that period and then adapt, you know?
Yeah, you've just got to not lose the love for it.
Yes.
And if you don't love doing those smaller bits, then you're easily just going to stop.
Exactly, yeah.
But I don't think it's not just the training. It's like, obviously, growing up, if you've been doing it from young, it just teaches you so much more than just jumps. It's like, for me personally, it's just taught me how to sort of just get by. You can go out, like you said, we go on trips and have nothing, but we'd be all right. And you can just navigate yourself around a bit better.
Just giving you some life skills along the way.
Definitely. Yeah,
unbelievable segue, Jay, because I was going to ask you, like, what are the top transferable skills from parkour into life?
Ooh, I don't know how to say it specifically, because I think it's all about your own personal journey.
Yeah, well, for you, like, what are the number 1, 2, 3 things like from parkour?
One thing I've learned is no matter where I am or what's happening, I can always get home.
Yeah,
I can always get home.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Yeah, you can always just get by, and I just feel like we just view things differently to like your average 9 to 5 office worker.
definitely.
Do you know what I mean? Like they're walking. Loads of people have probably said this, but people are walking down the streets on their phones with their heads down, and we're just like observing everything.
Well, the parkour vision does just make you more observant of things.
I think it definitely does.
Just look at the world differently.
Yeah. I think it definitely does just make you more aware of your surroundings, more aware of people as well, because we're always always experiencing loads of different types of people, and I think it just makes you more aware of everything around you.
That is an interesting one as well. It's a good point. We're always out because when you're training parkour, especially at a young age, like you're outdoors like 10, 12 hours a day, all day.
Yeah.
And even the social like stuff that we'll do, even now, we're all like in our 20s with the RUN LDN guys, the sort of social activity of choice is to get like a couple of strongbows and go down by the water and just sit and have a drink and chill out. You know what I mean? Like rather than go to a pub or... We just like being outside, and I'm often like, boys, it's cold. My poor Australian, genetics can't deal with it. But these boys, like, there's just this nostalgia to it, you go have a drink with your mates. We'll do it. We'll just go sit outside by the water, at a parkour spot. We're not training. It's just a social thing.
Yeah.
But there's something
and that
about
comfortable place.
Yeah, isn't it? Like, is there something about that being outside for so many hours?
Like, we grew up outside. Do you know what I mean? That's what's normal. It's what's comfortable.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't like staying indoors for too long. If I'm sitting indoors on my own for too long, I go a bit mad. I'm just like, no, I need to get out and do something.
No, that is a cool one, to be fair. I feel like that.
Because it got to a point where we'd all meet up, not even to train, just to go out and chill. Even like down Waterloo, we just go out.
Yeah.
Just we'd meet up and then just figure out what to do.
Yeah.
In the snow or the rain or whatever.
Yeah.
There is a lot of that. I always found it like...
It's like calming, isn't it, when you're in that environment that you know and love and you've grown up in.
Yeah, it's weirdly relaxing.
Yeah, I think, and there's this weird mindset where like, if you put someone that didn't grow up with parkour in it, they'd be a bit like, oh, like what's the plan? What are we doing? And the plan will literally be, we're going to meet at Waterloo at this time, rain, snow, sunshine, whatever, training, not training, and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. And I think that for me is one of the number one transferable skills, just being able to figure it out, And it can be frustrating because people will not pre-plan. So it's really hard to organize parkour people.
Yes.
But then the spontaneity of it as well is like, let's just meet here and then see what happens.
Like you've always got the undercover spot or the little building you can go into in. Yeah. It's wicked.
Yeah. There's always these go-tos. It is funny. Like, for me, the number one is, especially when traveling, you always just feel like you'll be able to handle yourself in any situation. I think that's so key.
I think that's an important skill to have as well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's not like you know what you're going to do. You don't, but you feel confident in your ability to handle any situation.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's kind of huge, isn't it?
Like, it's massive.
Yeah, it's a big one. And it's a big part of the reason why I think a lot of...
It's having that confidence in yourself to just deal with it.
Exactly. Yeah. Confidence in yourself to, to jump into anything. And that's why a lot of people in parkour tend to try like different ambitious businesses or try to go in the creative industry and do all these kind of slightly different things, stepping out of your comfort zone in your life, because we're just used to it from the sport. Yeah, mate. I wanted to also ask, where do you want to see parkour? Like, what do you think's good in the sport now? What do you think should grow and change? Because look, we're still really small, especially as Parkour UK, we're trying to think of all the, well, number one, we're trying to increase participation, get parkour in schools, stuff like that. Like, that would be great.
Parkour in schools.
Yeah, that would be a big goal, stuff like that. But then where do you want to see the sport? Like, what do we want to see parkour in 5-10 years? Because it's hard. Like, it's still so small.
Yeah. I think, do you know what, to be honest though, where I've had a bit of time, I haven't really thought about it too much. But with the whole parkour in schools thing, that would be cool. But I've always been a big advocate of just like go out with your mates and just
absolutely
train kind of thing.
So you're more into the informal type of training rather than
I suppose. But then again, like you say, you just got to get with the times and everything.
Well, exactly.
Everything changes.
Yeah, exactly. Like the informal type of training is where you get the real lifestyle athletes. It's where you get people really pushing the sport. But what I find is you need to give people that first taste. So for you, that might have been a video, or actually, what was it that got you into training?
it just came naturally, to be honest with me. I just always had that urge
to jump around. Did you see like? But
did you know what you were
doing?
doing?
Actually, yeah, I'll tell you what. The first thing I saw when I cancan't remember how young I was, but I saw a David Guetta video with Daniel Labaka.
Oh my!
It was called Love Don't Let Me Go.
Yeah.
I remember I saw that when I was little.
Yeah.
I said, Mum, I want to do that. And she was like, oh, that takes years and years. And after
did you know it was parkour then, or did you just see it?
No, I
and
didn't. I just saw it.
I want to do that.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I remember I think that was the first thing I ever saw.
Yeah. And for me, it's about giving people that first spark. So with parkour in schools or lessons or whatever, like, just give people that first exposure, you know? And they might just continue with lessons, they might stop, or they might move into like it as a lifestyle. Because even like, you know, the team fat guys, right? You'd associate them with a pretty similar style of training to yourself, but they all started with at least a couple of lessons.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? That's just how people get into the sport now. So I just want to see more people be able to see that first exposure to it. And when you see it in a video, it's like, yeah, I want to do that, but it's quite hard to actually get out on the street and do it unless you have a group of friends. So I started with like 2 school friends and they stopped, right? So if you have a group, it's good, but it's just about giving people that first exposure, whatever it might be. And different people are going to take to it in different ways.
Exactly, Some people will love to just go out on the street and do it, whereas others need that structured environment to do it.
Yeah, it's just about giving everyone... Well, the thing I like the idea of is everyone in like, as a big goal, you know, like... over the years for Parkour UK is every kid has the opportunity to do parkour. Like they've heard of it and they know how they would maybe do it if they wanted to. You know what I mean? Not that everyone will, but because a lot of people don't even know what it is, right? So everyone's like, oh, okay, if I wanted to do that, I could do it here. Yeah. Yeah, and that would be cool. And then from there, like things grow and we get infrastructure and money and, you know, like parents and like, because at the end of the day, for me, it comes down to participation. Like we want numbers. Yeah.
Definitely need more parkour parks.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so that's with the numbers comes that, you know what I mean? Because then people start lobbying their local council for parkour parks, you know. It just comes down to the number of practitioners. I remember in Australia, we used to always try to lobby like our local council for skate parks, you know. And skate parks are actually a lot more expensive and difficult to build than a parkour park. Calisthenic parks get built all the time, and it's like a parkour park is like slightly more expensive than that. But yeah, it just comes down to how many people want it, and if they do, brilliant. So yeah, that's what I want to see. I'm trying to think, any final thoughts? Any final
what's next
stories?
For you? What's next
that's a good question.
I hate that question. I think just genuinely, just trying to get back out there, trying to get into training again. But just trying to find the time and trying to actually motivate myself and push myself to actually do it rather than keep saying it. Yeah, you know what I mean. I don't want to keep saying it. Actually, I just want to get to that point where I can actually push myself and actually go and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you wouldn't see yourself doing any coaching or anything like that, is that?
Do you know? I've actually grown to. I never used to want to, but I've grown. I've grown to it. I've grown to the idea of it. I spoke to Luke Fat about it a little bit actually, and he made me grow towards it a little bit more.
So that could be on the horizon.
Yeah.
Watch the space.
1-to-1s as well. Orlando started doing 1-to-1s with people. It's not a bad shout. Yeah. I miss coaching a bit. I used to do a bit back in the day. It is nice when you have people that are really, really dedicated, really want to get involved. I think it's a good point you make as well, because there's a fair bit of research into like people saying they're going to do things, getting the dopamine from it, and then actually being less likely to do it. You know what I mean? But yeah, as a New Year's resolution, you know, how about like you just try and...
When you keep on saying something, people are just like, oh yeah, whatever, mate.
Yeah.
I've said it so many times now.
Yeah.
So what's stopping you? What is that blocker at the moment?
It's just motivation.
Yep.
And just, like I said as well, just life things getting in the way of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it mainly boils down to motivation. Depends on how much you want something, right?
Yeah.
So I just got to want it more.
Yeah. Well, step 1, break up with your girl, sort out some time.
Oh, she might watch this.
I'm joking. She's absolutely lovely, mate. No, I don't know. I'm just taking the piss. But that is one thing when you're a kid, like, you know, as a young man doing parkour, I swear, like a big prerequisite is just never talk to a member of the opposite sex. Like, you just have all this time. But yeah, I mean, try to come out to the XXL sessions when you can.
Yeah, I've been to a few.
Yeah, no, I remember, and it's always a great time when you come out. Because that's the good thing about that is they're fairly consistent. There's always a session on. And if it's raining, they go yard, you know, and so it's like you can fit it fairly consistently into your life. We're going to have them on the pod tomorrow. Can't wait to talk to them. That would be brilliant.
Wicked.
But yeah, cheers. Thanks so much for coming on, Jay.
No,
it's been awesome. It was good. Yeah.
It's been a laugh.
Enjoyed it. Cheers, guys. Jump onto our website if you want to see more of the podcast. You want to see some fantastic video projects. We got a couple of new ones released, some breaking news in the community, all kinds of goodies. What is it? ParkourUK.com or .co.uk? What's the actual URL? I always forget.
Parkour.
I'll put it on the screen because this is embarrassing, and check it out. All right. Cheers.
Nice.